Continue. All right, Ms. Peters, we're recording now. Thank you again for meeting with me, and I'm glad that we found some time that could work for us both. Um, can you tell me about your Unit 2?
So for my unit two with my cohorts, we're going to start with states of matter. Um, I'm going to do, uh, this is what I'm going to look, we're going to look at this picture and we're going to have a conversation about it just to get their minds thinking. And then I used some information from the testing website to get students used to analyzing text and graph to answer questions. Um, then we're gonna go over the homework that relates to what I'm gonna teach today, based on yesterday's exit ticket. We're gonna go over the "Can you explain it?" I'm gonna do a quick check for understanding, and then we're gonna do our States of Matter lab today.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions about the lesson?
Sure.
Okay. So the overall the lesson I'm going to be observing, this is a lab lesson, and
Yes.
everything prior to it is just kind of engagement stuff. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the focus should be the lab. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, all right. Can you go back to the beginning of the lesson? You started out with, it looks like an engagement photo. Okay. Yep. All right. So we have the engagement photo.
Mhm.
You have a conversation piece to get students talking.
Mhm.
Excellent job there. Quick question. I
Mhm.
was curious to know the standard. What specific standards are you looking at? And then what are the actions or how, the proof that a student has met the need of that standard?
Standard PS1,
Okay.
dash one. Um, so
And
it. Mm-hmm.
And just for my clarification, could you just give me a briefing on what that is?
Also, we're going to plan and conduct an investigation,
Mhm,
and describe and classify the different kinds of material. So it depends on where the student is based on my five different cohorts and the one IA cohort that I support. So my two cohorts that are SPED and consist of 504 students, I
mhm,
expect them to be able to identify what we're looking at and to start thinking about, is it a solid, liquid, or a gas?
mhm,
Or if they even think it is any of those solid, liquids, or gas. If
mhm.
it's my two honors cohort, I want them to be able to identify what it is and answer some higher level thinking questions that come with it. Okay, what happens? What caused it? What do you think will be the next step? How long do you think it will be this way? For my L cohort, the students that are English language learners, this visual, the reason I picked it is because they might have never seen lava before. So now when I say lava, now they have something to, like a frame of reference. And then the Aya cohort, that is students that are that need more support. When I met with the teacher, we were going to describe, like, have the students start thinking about words that go with it. Okay, is it a liquid? Is it a solid? Well, what? Why do we think it's a liquid? Well, why do we think it's a solid? Just to get them talking through it. She said she would take at least a week on this one lesson I'm doing. That will take me one day.
So, Ms. Peters, first off, I want to say thank you for everything you're doing. I used to teach science, so I know that teaching multiple cohorts and doing lesson planning for essentially their multiple classes, multiple levels of students is really difficult. So, first and foremost, thank you so much for your hard work, and your lesson looks beautiful.
Thanks.
I would love to spend some time focusing in on one of these groups.
Mhm.
So, for the time that you and I have set, which group of students would I be observing? And I would like us to spend our time focusing in on uh, what I should be looking for during that observation.
The cohort you'll be observing will be my honors cohort.
Okay.
During that lesson, you'll see them work in small groups. One student will lead the lab, and I'll be there just to facilitate as I pop in and out of the different groups and the different breakout rooms. So I've given them roles because this is not new in the school year. We established them earlier. So there's going to be a leader, a facilitator, someone that's going to take notes, someone that's a timekeeper to keep them on track and on pace for the lesson.
And are you giving these roles?
They've already assigned the roles, and then
Mhm.
these are the roles that they keep throughout the school year while they're in my class.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's go ahead down. I saw that there was a uh like an engage, yes, that do now. Can I take a look at the do now?
Oh,
And
sure. This is the do now. I can put it in present mode so you can see it better.
no, yes, please. Thank you.
Not a problem. So, um, when we take any type of state testing, what I've noticed is students struggle with going from uh, paragraphs to looking at data. So, this is a combination. So, it has information that they have to take from this image and from the graph. So, they have to analyze the data in the graph to answer these two questions right here.
And are you pulling this from a similar state test
Yeah, I'm
that,
pulling this from a state test.
okay.
Uh, the science state test.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they have one for fifth grade, eighth grade, and ninth grade biology. So I pulled the eighth grade science one just
Hmm.
to help my students get used to seeing this type of questioning and
Hmm.
knowing how to attack these problems.
Hmm. Okay, sounds really good.
Frozen.
Now, for this do now,
There
what
you
is
go.
your
Starting to
expectation
move.
for your honor students? What percentage of them do you think are going to be able to answer both
I can't hear you if
questions?
you're speaking to me.
Oh, hello, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Um, so the question was, for this due now,
Mhm.
what is your expectation for your honor students? What percentage of them do you think are going to answer this question correctly? And what are you going to do if they don't meet that expectation?
So out of the 27 students in this cohort, I expect at least 25 out of the 27 to answer this question correctly, and
Mhm,
are are prepared to answer my questions as to how did they come to this answer, because
mhm,
it doesn't matter to me that you got the correct answer. How did you get there? And for
mhm.
those two students that did not get it correct, I'll have them explain why they thought their answer was what they thought it was, so we can help them get understanding of how to analyze the data to get the correct answer.
Okay, now if the students are not at that 25 mark, let's say that only, I don't know, 15 get it correct. What do you
Okay.
have planned for that?
So then tomorrow we'll go ahead and look at the data from the exit ticket, and then I'll put it as a check for understanding because we have to close that loop. We can't have any misunderstanding.
Okay, so during the do now, if you see that the data is lower than expected,
Mhm.
you're going to emphasize during the instruction those areas and then double check with the exit ticket.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can we go to the next piece of the lesson?
Surely can. So this is the homework for students, and they'll have different questions. So it's just a quick snapshot. So I already uploaded it to their Google Classroom. They have to
Hmm.
identify something can or cannot. And I just give them a quick image of it so they don't know what it looks like. They know what it looks like. It's in their interactive notebooks, and
Hmm.
their parents have access to it.
Hmm.
Then this is the can you explain it based on yesterday's exit ticket. A lot of students were struggling with this. Like, can you explain what you see in this flask? And a lot of students didn't realize that it's a solid liquid and a gas. They thought the flask was actually stained. And so I use one of the students who had a higher like answer, like her answer was engaging, thoughtful.
Hmm.
I use this as my example. The differences in the three forms of bromine is the light orange haze. So she realized that the haze is also a gas. The reddish orange pool, which is a liquid, and the bar, which is the solid. So then she was able to, like, some students don't or couldn't make that connection. So she was able to help make that connection. So I really,
Okay.
um,
I definitely love the use of this non-identified student work as your exemplar. So excellent job there.
yeah.
Um, I do have a question about the picture though. I
Mhm.
can see how a student could get somewhat confused because even if you identify the bar and what looks like a coin or something at the bottom as a
Mhm,
solid,
mhm.
um, what reference point do they have to see or identify a liquid here?
So at the bottom, it
Uh-huh.
literally tells them that it is a pool, like it is a liquid. So I can let me see if I can zoom in.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so when a student has their interactive notebook open, they can actually zoom in because theirs is not in present mode. Mine is in present mode, so
Mhm.
they can zoom in. I've showed them how to zoom in and read all that information right here. So everything is
Oh,
there.
orange pool, yeah. Oh, okay.
So they have
Okay.
to be able to realize that sometimes the image will give you text, and you need to read the text too.
That is very much so like our standardized tests. All right, Miss Peters, I see where you're going with that. Okay,
I'm
Miss
trying to,
Peters.
trying to have my
All right,
students ready
very
for
nice.
anything.
Thank you. Okay, I like that. That's actually a really good idea.
Mhm.
Um,
So then the next part right here. So we looked at a video clip,
mhm,
and they had to, why is the liquid being poured into a block shaped mold? Describe what happens to the shape and volume of the liquid metal. So I cut and like I chopped up a video that was similar to the question, just in case students don't know that liquids are like the liquid is being poured into a mold. So I found a video so
mhm,
they can have that from a reference, not only just for my honor students, but for my students that have IEPs, 504s, my L scholars, or any scholar that might not understand what the question is asking. I have a
mhm,
visual and it plays.
mhm.
So now they understand that this liquid metal is extremely hot and dangerous. Like we talked about all of that. We tore it all apart. And I asked them, well, what do you think it is? Well, what's going on? Why are you doing it? So the
Mhm,
chat was going. That way they can see their other students' answers to help them answer their question.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, let me keep going. Sorry.
And what else do we have?
That was the
I think
same
it's
video.
playing again. Okay.
But yeah, that was the next. This is the second part of the question. Think of
Mhm,
the solids and liquids, what you encounter every day. Because if I started with this question, I didn't think they would be able to make that connection with like how you build a building. Like I think they think that metal beams come that large and they don't realize that they're actually a liquid and then turn into it. So I had to get them thinking. That way, now that you know that it can be a liquid and it goes into a mold to make a solid, what do you see every day that was a liquid or a solid? And to think about that. And that helped with their States of Matter lab. They were able to make more connections. It was more engagement. It was easier for them to just run through it with not a lot of support from me. So we did a FET lab. And again, students had roles and they did the States of Matter. So that way, one student was able to have this lab running while
So
another student,
you keep saying that you you already did this with another group? Which
yep,
group did you do this with?
I did this with a group yesterday because of the scheduling.
Oh, okay. Which group was it? Your
That was my L cohort.
The
Yeah.
L cohort? And
Mhm.
how did that go?
So it was way more fun than I thought it would be. With the L cohort, they don't really get as much freedom. We split the cohort up between myself and my L teacher.
Mhm,
That way, the students can get that one-on-one and feel supported. The
mhm,
groups are larger, so I had 10 and she had 10,
mhm.
but like it was more of a what happened? Well, what do y'all see to get them thinking so they can fill out
Mhm.
the table? Because I think
Okay.
that's the thing. They don't know how to form their questions, so we're just
Mhm.
giving them that support.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Ooh,
Would like to ask a question.
yes.
So you ran this lesson with your L cohort, and I love the visualizations. That's definitely helpful for our English language learners and giving them. I like that you're very mindful of giving them opportunities to see and giving everyone the same um, base scaffolding so that they
Mhm.
can build on.
Mhm,
For your honors students, these are our students that we expect to be high academic flyers.
mhm.
Um, how are you differentiating the lessons so that it's more challenging for them and also possibly adding in some quantitative features in there?
So with the honors cohort, they lead the lesson. It's me just literally sitting back and facilitating what
Okay.
I need to when there's a misconception.
Mhm,
So when they're doing any sort of lab, like they'll be doing tomorrow that you're going to observe,
mhm,
they're going to lead it. You'll hear conversation as to, okay, well, what did we observe? So the same questions I would ask my L cohort, they're asking each other
mhm,
and they're building off of that. So I'm trying to make them thinkers and leaders instead of me doing the thinking and leading for them. So,
mhm,
okay, well, why do we think argon looks like this as a solid? Let's look at the temperature. What does
mhm.
the temperature mean? What happens when we add heat? What happens when we make it cold? So they're leading and thinking instead of me doing all the thinking for them.
Okay, that's a very interesting classroom culture. I would love to observe that. So
I
I'll
can't
definitely
wait.
be looking for that classroom culture while
Mhm.
I observe this lesson. Um, possibly even, with your permission, pulling some things out of your playbook and maybe we could use it across the school because
Sure.
that's where we want all our learners to be. We want them to be um, actively engaged in each lesson
Mhm.
and then challenging each other to be better.
Yeah,
So, Ms. Peters, I would love to see that in your classroom.
I can't wait.
All right. Is there anything else about this lesson you would like me to be mindful of or
I would say if I had to do this again, I'll just wait and ask like what kind of feedback, like how can I have made this better? Because I want to do the same lesson again next year, but I
Mhm,
always want to add more and more rigor because the students are never the same,
mhm,
and I want to make sure that I keep having students that like I want to push my students that have IEPs and 504s to be these kind of students.
mhm.
Like how can I do that?
Well, I think that you have a very well laid out lesson. And from what I can see, a lot of your students, my expectation is that a lot of your students should be able to follow along with the lesson. One of
Yeah.
the things that's mentioned in the standard is that students plan and conduct um, their experiment or their lab. One of the things that maybe I didn't observe while we were speaking is that planning piece, and that
Mhm.
is definitely a higher order portion of of any lesson
Yeah.
to have students. So you do have students facilitating, but maybe adding in an opportunity for them to plan an extension lab and then
Oh,
evaluating that would be a good value add to this lesson.
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So give that a thought. I know I'm coming in tomorrow, so you might not have enough time to switch it up like
Oh,
that, but whatever you can add that does hit that standard of, more so the planning part, because I definitely see students conducting experiments, describing and classifying materials. That is all in there. That's excellent. That higher order piece of the planning is something for us to consider. And then, of course, I'll be looking for that classroom culture that you described to me today.
love it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time, Ms. Peters. This was such a pleasure. I love this notebook thing that you have.
Thank you. I'm
This is
excited.
awesome. So thank you
Thank you.
so much for your time.
Not a problem. You have a
All
great
right.
day.
All right. Let me get out of your hair. I know you got a lot to do. And thank you again for all your hard work. I mean, whew, you, thank you, Ms. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Willis.
You're welcome.